Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, welcome to it. It's finally here. What is it? Well, it's finally summer. Yeah, even though the heat has been here for a while, we have now passed the longest day of the year. So the days are already getting shorter. We might as well set our Christmas trees up now with as fast as this year is going. But yep, we are officially in it now. We're in the dog days. So everyone, please be safe out there. As the heat, no joke. As we are recording right now here in Kansas, are under a heat advisory. We've got a 103 forecasted for today. So it's going to be hot and gross and nasty, and I don't like it, but this is where we are. I went and just got 2 miles this morning while the sun was coming up, and it was still gross. I mean, we're talking in the 5 o'clock hour AM, and it was still just nasty outside. So everyone be careful, be safe. It's hot, it's gross. There's nothing we can do about it. So here we are. So this past weekend for the podcast, we were at the I Wanna Rock 5K in Overland Park, Kansas. This is a brand new race, never been done before, so a brand new theme, but a very familiar course. It is a course we've all done before. It is one out at the Prairie Fire location in Overland Park. You start in front of an AMC theater, and that's where everything begins. You take off, you go through the little the shopping center, as it were. You dump out onto the road. You're one lane because you are on open working roads, so you just got to stay in the one lane. And it's just a big old round and back. So we go down, hang a right, go down more, hang a right, loop back around, and we're done. It's one we've done before. It was last year's Stars and Stripes 5K course. So if you did Stars and Stripes last year, then you know where it's going to be. Funny enough about Stars and Stripes 5K this year, again, I'm talking to anyone local to the Kansas City area. It is not at Prairie Fire. It is not where it has been previously. It is over at the Aspira campus, former Sprint campus. So just a little bit northwest of where we're at. So if someone had not have said it, would have shown up at the wrong place on the 4th of July, and I would have been very confused as to where everyone was at. So I will be at Stars and Stripes on July 4th, and that is at the Aspira campus, formerly Sprint campus, not at Prairie Fire. Cool? All right. But yeah, so it was a great event. The I Want to Rock 5K was super fun. The medal was great. I'm going to step away or lean this way. I'll grab the medal. And my ribbon got all messed up. Oh no. Well, this was going to look nice. Not anymore. Anyway, there it is. As you can see, it was all 80s hairband rock and roll themed. So that was really fun. People crushed it with the costumes at this race. And I don't just mean our buddy, the KC cosplay runner, although his was spot on. There were a lot of people rocking some cool costumes, a lot of mullets flying around out there, as there should be. I would have done that if heredity would have allowed, but it didn't, and that's why I have a great hat collection. So there we go. So well done, Casey Running Company. They were the ones who put on this race. It was good, great race. Our buddy Will was working the aid station. He kept everyone hydrated except for me. He threw water at me. So I'm tattling on him. That was so mean. Actually, it felt great because it was so hot out there. It was a very warm, muggy morning in Kansas City. But we all did it. We all had fun. A lot of group pictures, a lot of great pictures. So there we go. Next one, I wanted to give an update. We didn't talk about it last week because we had so much to talk about. And 2 weeks ago, yeah, I hate talking about these things. 2 weeks ago, I did the podcast and told everyone, told y'all that we had launched the Patreon page for the podcast so that people might, if they so chose, help out with the expenses of this podcast. If you enjoy it, you give a little something, that we can keep going, and everything is great. So in the opening 2 weeks, we had 6 people all sign up to give a little something per month towards the podcast. So to you 6, I want to say huge thank you. Thank you so much for deciding to help us out with everything we've got going on. Of course, if you maybe missed that episode, or if you'd kind of forgotten about it and it got lost in the shuffle, would definitely love it if you would be willing to just give a little something. And again, we set up 4 tiers. There's 5K, 10K, half full. Different benefits come with each tier. And so talking to Mrs. Back of the Pack podcast, who she is more leery about this idea than I am. She's like, why would people do this? Why would they? You're offering little to nothing. And my response is, well, they love me, right? They want to help this podcast rival that of the Kelsey brothers, right? We could definitely knock off that Joe Rogan character. But she thought there should be more. So I've been racking my brain. Okay, what more can I do? Oh, okay. So previously, if you were a long-time listener of the show, when we were back with the former production company, after every race, I did an after action report in blog-ish form. Typed it out. Okay, I'm going to bring that back. I will put that on the Patreon page and it'll be available for all subscribers. So if you are a subscriber of any level, if you are a Patreon person or patron, or if you're patronizing, no, I'm kidding, whatever it might be, I will start putting out the after action reports, the typed up reviews of each race, and it'll go on Patreon and it'll be available to anyone who is a donor of any level. So it doesn't matter if you're a 5K, 10K, half full, or if you do a custom, whatever you want. Anyone who does will have access to this blog and will get the after action reports. Again, I'm trying to offer a little more because I need the help and I very much appreciate the help. I want to do what I can to earn your help. So we're going to add that to the mix. You can go out onto Patreon. You can see what the different levels offer. And now I'm telling you, all levels will be available for the after action reports that I will type up. It'll be me personally after each race, just to kind of tell you about the race. So maybe, oh, this was a good experience, or this one wasn't, or this sounds like a great race, or I wouldn't do this because this is a thing that bothers me, whatever the case might be. And so that is what's going to be next for that. After that, last week, I was honest and I was a little fired up. And a lot of people are like, whoa, this is only the second time ever you have given a race a very bad review. And I did last week give a race a very bad review. And I took out a little frustration, shall we say, on the race company that is involved, who hosts this event and hosts many, many other events. Now, to be fair, because again, I will give credit where credit is due. And I gave all the credit that I could last weekend about the race, even though there were things that certainly bothered me. I said my piece. I said my thing, all right, to Bodies Race Company. Someone informed them of my words and my issues, and so they listened in. They in turn responded. Okay, so you can go out and you can see the video from last week, and you can see underneath it in the comments on Facebook their response. Their response very professional, very, we're sorry about the experience. Well, we're going to fix it. Thanks for the feedback, and on we go with life. Again, a very customer service professional answer. So I just want to let you know that is out there. You guys can read that. If there was something maybe that you wanted to just kind of also get out there on the record, you could respond to that, and I'm sure they'll see it. And again, my intent is never to tear a race company down to the ground. I am not trying to do that, and I certainly wasn't trying with them. As I said previously, and I will reiterate, I used to really, really enjoy Bodies events. All right, and I'm not saying that they're all just dog do now, okay? That was a bad one. That was a bad experience, so I called it out for being a bad experience. Not all my experiences with them are bad. I did the Sweetheart Shuffle in February, and it was fine. It was a good race. It was everything I expected. I like the course out in Independence. I like the course around Bass Pro. It's fine. And I know that if I do the 10K of that race, more often than not, I'll get an H division award because it's February and it's cold. Not many runners are out there. So I don't have a problem with all their events. I had a problem with that event. I don't have a problem with all their locations. I had a problem with that location. I don't dislike Bodies in any way, shape, or form. I've run 11 billion of their races. I am not here to try and tear down a company. So I hope no one took it that way. It was a review of a race in a situation that had me frustrated. I want all the race companies around town to succeed and do well so that we selfishly have options. If one race works for us on one weekend, but or if it doesn't work and we've got other options, then hey, cool. I like options. I like having a lot of different races we can run, different themes, different ideas, different locations. I'm in for all of this. So I certainly did not want that to feel like I was personally attacking them or just trying to rip them to shreds. Not the case at all. Honest and frustrated feedback about an event. Hey, we'll move forward. I am not sitting here. I am not telling a single person to boycott Bodies races. I'm not saying that. I am not going to boycott Bodies races. I'm sure I'll be at one sooner rather than later. If I'm signed up for one right now, it's not coming to my brain, but it's certainly possible. But I wanted to put that out there on the record. Not trying to start a big old brouhaha, just was being honest in the moment about how I was feeling and what I was thinking about a particular event. So that is where we will leave that for this very moment. So I feel like we are trying to catch up on a lot of things because last week was just 2 race reviews and nothing more. So I know I'm kind of all over the place for this particular episode. Our next subject matter we're going to cross because again we're getting things checked off the list, taken care of here. So many things just left out hanging. I told you guys a while back that I had taken a weekend off running. I took a class to be a certified running coach. Again, not to actually be your running coach, but to lend a little legitimacy to the podcast, to have a better understanding of a lot of different aspects of running. And I feel like I gained that. So finally, after almost a month, almost waited till the very last minute where I could take the test. I did take the test. I did pass the test. So I will eventually be a certified running coach once all the I's are dotted and the T's crossed. But I passed my test, and so hooray. I mean, it was no joke. It was 100 multiple choice questions, and everything was based on information in their book. Now, I have been running long enough that I could read one of their questions and have what I feel was the right answer or what has worked for me, but it may not be what was in their book. So anyway, I'm thrilled though that I did not completely mess up and that I was able to pass the test on the first go. So I'll have that certification coming my way shortly. Again, I'm glad I did it. Very informational and a lot of stuff that I learned. I'll be passing on to you as soon as, well, this episode here in a few minutes when we jump into something else. So there we go. The running coach thing that is taken care of. And I think, okay, last thing. All right, last thing on the checklist. I know. The website is still down. The store is not built. For what it's worth, we're having a little health situation here at the Back of the Pack Podcast Studios. Mrs. Back of the Pack Podcast has got some stuffs going on, and so we're dealing with some stuffs right now. As soon as we get the stuffs dealt with, then we'll be able to kind of refocus. I'm honest with y'all, just trying to throw it out there. It's nothing big and terrible. Not saying anything like that. I don't need anyone to start panicking. No. It's just stuffs. It's just medical stuffs that's got to be addressed. It can't just be pushed to the side. Stuffs that's got to be addressed. So that's where we're at. I know things are slow, and I'm really, really sorry. Stick with me, and we will have shirts available. I know we want t-shirts, and I know there's a big cry out there for tank tops. We're going to make both of these things happen right quick, okay? So just bear with us a little bit longer, but it's coming, okay? Now I sound like a politician here. I even got the little hand gestures. And okay, so in actuality here, we're gonna have the store. If you're only listening to the podcast and you can't see I'm being ridiculous on the camera, trust me, I'm being ridiculous on the camera. It's just what I do. So anyway, okay, and then another one, we will have a special guest host coming up here in just a few weeks. So I hope you are ready for that. You finally get a voice that's not mine. And so Karen Velez is going to be back, and she's going to be a guest host for an episode while I am out of town, which is going to be great. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Her last appearance on, people went bonkers. So like, wow, she is super good. Like, you need to have her back on. You're all correct. She is super good. I definitely wanted to have her back on. And I'm going to make her tell you guys about her podcast and where you can listen to her on the weekly, because her podcast about gardening needs to grow. Get it? You see what I did there? Oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm real good. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, so Karen's coming back here in just a few weeks. So we'll have a guest host, and she's awesome. I think you guys are going to enjoy that immensely. Okay, here we go. So it's hot outside, right? Super hot. I know last year and the year before, we have all done episodes on heat. Yes, we know it happens. We do it every year. And I think we should. I think reminders are good. And I've got a little bit of new information that comes from this handy dandy running book. So right now we're gonna go over something we've gone over before, and then we're gonna touch on something we haven't gone over before. But either which way, man, the heat is important. It is not to be played with. You can run in the heat. Like, this isn't an impossibility, but if you are not smart about it, boy, you can really set yourself up for some failure or for some time away from running because you done messed up, Ron. And we don't want that. We all have to make it through running season because we're all already in our fall marathon training sessions. Can you believe that? Like, we're all in it. Everyone has started now, from Chicago to New York to where the heck am I going this year? Berlin, and also going to Mississippi. I've got the Mississippi training shirt on for the Mississippi Gulf Shores Marathon coming up in December. We're just about in the training cycle for that. You know, my focus, of course, is more Berlin than it is Mississippi, but I've got 2 fall marathons coming up, so I have to be ready. You have to be ready for all the nonsense that you have signed up for as well. And we have to do that in this rather oppressive heat. So let's just go down what we know, okay? The warning signs of heat illness. These are important. The first one, of course, is heat exhaustion. So heat exhaustion. If you've got that, you feel faint or dizzy. All right. Let's see. Boy, I've got my glasses on and still can't see it. All right. Excessive sweating, also a sign of heat exhaustion. Cool, pale, or clammy skin, nausea or vomiting, rapid or weak pulse, muscle cramps. All of these things are signs of heat exhaustion. Okay. What you need to do about that, you get into cooler air conditioning. You get into a cool air conditioned place. How about that? Go home. Let's see. You drink water. No kidding. And then take a cool shower or use cold compresses. Okay. So again, I know we've been over this stuff before, but y'all, it's getting bad out there. Remember our friend down in Texas running up that Hillary? She said it's already been in the hundreds since May. Like, that's just nuts. All right. Now the big one, and I'll stop joking around being so silly about this. Heat stroke. Okay. And heat stroke on days like today with excessive heat warnings and high humidity, these can be real possibilities. So you got to be aware and you got to be ready. So any kind of a throbbing headache, that can be a sign of heat stroke. No sweating. If your body stops sweating, even though you're outside and it is damn hot, that's a sign of heat stroke. All right. You flat run out of water in your body to sweat out. The next one, body temperature above 103, red, hot, and dry skin. That's a big one. If you take your temperature, which everyone, it's easy to do. We've all got the little forehead thingies these days. Test it. If your forehead is over 103, that's heat stroke, man. And that, again, this stuff can be deadly if you're not careful. All right, this is another one with nausea or vomiting. Rapid, strong pulse, and then may lose consciousness. So if you're running with someone and your running partner maybe goes down, loses consciousness, heat stroke. Just keep it in your head. And the result, or what you want to do for heat stroke, you got to take immediate action to cool the person until help arrives. And then, of course, you call 911. Don't mess around with it. Don't play. That's the important part. You got to do it. Okay. Again, I know we've been over this stuff before, but it is worth saying every year. Now, this is the part that I found interesting. A lot of times we go out on a hot day, and I'm just as guilty of this as anyone else. We go out on a hot day and we expect our performance to be what it usually is. If you go out for your normal 2-mile training run, 3-mile training run, and like you are always in the neighborhood of 9:30, 10 minutes a mile, and like you're consistent, boom, 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 you're there. But you go out in this, you're not probably going to run as fast. Now, is there any kind of formula on what that looks like? Well, there actually is. All right. So this is actually pretty cool. This is marathon performance in heat and cold. This is just something we've got in this book here. And it's the percentage, like if 0 is your best and like that's what you run, then that's what you're running. Any percentage off of that is like what you can kind of expect to add to your time, whether that be an overall time or whether it be a per mile pace, okay, pace or overall time. Now with these, again, I'm trying to choose my words carefully. I want to make sure I'm conveying this almost intelligently, and almost is a key word. So when you go out for a run like this, you kind of have to decide, are you going to work on your pace? If you want to run your normal pace, then you're going to need to bring down the distance. Okay. You can run your normal pace, but you're going to have to bring down the distance because of the heat. If distance is what you're training for, if your long run is 5 miles and you know you got to get 5 miles, slow down. Bring it off the pace so that you keep the distance. Because in weather like this, you have to choose. Unless you are Superman, you're not going to do both. You're not going to get your long run at your normal pace when it's 100 plus degrees temperature. And what they say on that. So we kind of now know the perfect running 55 degrees. If it is around 55 degrees or maybe in your 50s, you are going to get your distance and your pace that you want. All right. 55 in the 50s, that seems to be the sweet spot. We kind of know that. A lot of runners like cooler weather. Well, that's why. If you go down to 35%, or not 35%, I'm sorry, 35 degrees, so maybe even just a little above freezing, you can suffer up to a 7% degradation. Say that 3 times fast. Degradation in either percent or not percent. Gosh, see, I'm trying to be slow and I'm still screwing up my words. But 7% degradation on either your pace or your distance. Okay, so you might be slower by about 7% on a colder day, 35%. 55%, you're in the money. Now, 75%, we all know that's starting to get a little toasty. Well, on the warm side, 75% is also another, 75 degrees is also another 7%. Should I turn this off and refilm this entire segment? Yes, I should. Am I going to? No, I'm not. So yeah, if it's 75 degrees or in the 70s, you can expect up to 7% degradation on your run, either your pace or your distance. And then 85 degrees, 85. Okay, we're talking 100 and above right now. 85 degrees is up to 10% degradation. You can be 10% slower because of that heat, and that's 85 degrees. All right, and we could be a full 15 to 20 above that. I thought these numbers were amazing. So another way they break it down here, 20 degrees, 3 to 4% degradation, 32 degrees, 1 to 2% degradation, 50 degrees, none, 60 degrees, 2 to 3% degradation, 70 degrees, 6 to 7% degradation, then 80 degrees can be anywhere between 12 and 15. All right, they kind of based on who you're looking at, they give both of these. Either which way, you kind of average all that together, you're losing a lot when you're running in this heat. Up to, what did that say? That second one was up to 15% degradation. Wow. Like that means you are going to slow way, way down on what you're doing. Whether it be the pace or the miles, you're going to slow way the heck down. So there's also here defenses. Okay, so defense against the warm weather. This goes under the no duh category, but we're going to throw it out there anyway. The proper clothing. I saw, oh my goodness, it was this past weekend. It was at the I Want to Rock 5K. I saw a person running in pants and long sleeves. Maybe they didn't want the sun. Maybe they've got skin things where the sun is an issue. But if you are in long, dark clothing during this weather, I question your decision making. That's not dressing properly, not for what you're doing. And based on how red their face was, they were working hard and they were working hot at that point. Another one, as we've talked about, adjust your pace. Again, go ahead and budget for a 10% degradation in this heat and bring your pace down if you're trying to go far. Again, I went out for 2 miles this morning. It was a hair slower than I would have liked. And I wasn't even going to press 3 miles. Nope, not two, and I was good. But it was a little slower. It was also very hot, already 80 degrees when I ran. Next, use common sense. Yeah, common sense. I wish it was more common than it is, but we're working on it. The next one, adaptation, and then hydration. So adaptation, let's see, they put it in here. Okay, so let's talk about adaptation. So heat acclimation, a minimum of 5 to 10 runs of an hour or more in the heat. So cardiovascular adaptations start within the first 3 to 5 days. Sweating changes may take up to 10 days to occur. Now, this is from a running coach course. Not everyone is going to do 5 or 10 runs of an hour or more. But just know, if that sounds like a lot, it is a lot. And that's what you need to do in order to adapt to this. So if you're not hitting that number, if you're out for a 20 to 30 minute run 3 times a week, you're not doing much to adapt to the heat. Trust me, same boat right here. I'm not doing those long runs. You know, I mean, I've got a half marathon coming up, but am I going to be fully acclimated to this heat by then? No, I don't think I am, because I'm not going to hit those numbers. But of course, they say consume extra electrolytes and then reduce exercise intensity in the first few days of training in the heat. So adapting is a big one. Adaptation is a big one. And then I think we touched on it there. Hydration, of course. Yeah, hydration. Electrolytes are your friends. Water is your friend. Sports drinks, don't be afraid. If you're worried about the sugar, go get a sugar-free. But if you're not hydrating correctly, again, when you're running, your blood is thickening, your muscles are tightening, your body is constricting because of the exercise in this heat. You need that hydration to keep things flowing and loose. And really, for someone like me who've had heart issues before, the constricting blood, the blood getting thicker, makes everything work harder. That is bad. Now, again, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be a doctor. I'm a guy who went through a course and is reading out of a book and has been through some of the shit. But if you are at all worried about it, consult a physician for sure. But just know, and it's common knowledge, it's medical fact, that blood thickens when you run out of the water. Okay. When you are getting dehydrated, when you're getting hot, your blood thickens and everything within you, heart and everything, have to work harder. So hydration, of course, is important. It's important to prevent heat exhaustion. It's important against heat stroke. And it's important to adapt. It's important for everything. So hydration, of course, is a number one. That is your biggest focus. That's what you need to really worry about. And then I would say, and what I really took away from this is that degradation of percentage, that percentage degradation. Wow. Like that was eye-opening to me. That's why this was the first thing out of this book I really wanted to cover with y'all. And since we're getting into the nasty of summer, it seemed like a good time and kind of important information because that's where we're at. And it's hot and we have to be safe and we have to be prepared because you don't want to get knocked out of the game while you're just in marathon training. You want to make it to the start line of Berlin, Chicago, New York, and everywhere in between. So that's why we talk about this. So adapt if you can, hydrate always, and get your expectations and get your mind right for running in this nonsense. Okay. So that's where we're going to put it for this year's edition of Heat Information. A little different than the last 2 years. Some same, some different, but always use your common sense, use your head. If you can't get out for your run until 3 p.m, I mean, come on, it might be better to wait until the sun goes down. Just be smart, make good decisions, and we'll make it through yet another nasty summer, right? Right. All right. Well, that's really all I had for today. I know we touched on many different things, from the Patreon to the bodies races to heat to a race review. We're all over. And did you guys see? I finally put up the sign. I just saw it here. I put up the sign. This was from Little Rock. If you came down to the Little Rock Marathon and I had you sign our sign, this is it behind me here. It's now on the wall here in the studio. So I love it. I thought this was so much fun to have everyone autograph our sign. So thank you to everyone from Little Rock back in March who did that. I would love to do more. So as I can get to expos, and expos cost money, Patreon, I hope to make this kind of a thing and get a whole bunch of these from these different expos that we get to go to because I thought it was super fun. So anyway, that's going to do it. I actually don't have a race coming up this weekend. There's a race I could do. I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to do it. Yes, it's the Bodies Firecracker themed race. I'm not registered for that, not for any personal stands, just because I never got around to registering for it. And I've got a lot of stuff I got to do. So I might take another weekend off running. I don't know. Again, and it's going to be stinking hot. Then after that, we get into the 4th of July. 4th of July race on the 4th, and then Hell on Gravel on the 6th in El Dorado, Kansas. And so we've got that coming up. So I don't know. I might take this weekend to, I don't know, start hydrating and keep cool until we get to Hell on Gravel, because that is going to be a son of a gun. That race is sold out, by the way. You can still run it. You can still sign up to run it, but you won't get a shirt. You won't get a medal. And if I'm not getting a shirt and I'm not getting a medal, I'm not running a race. But thankfully, I am registered in time for that one, so I'll be getting that. And I know there's quite a few from the Kansas City running community who are heading down there as well. So that'll be super fun. So other than that, that's what we got. I want to thank you all very much for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. It is my pleasure, as always. We're doing good. The Patreon thing. Thank you again to you 6 folks. YouTube needs more love. I'm just throwing it out there. YouTube needs more love. Watch on YouTube and make sure you subscribe. Subscribe is the big thing. You can listen to the podcast twice. You watch a movie twice, you pick up something new. So watch us on Facebook, then go ahead and watch us on YouTube. But make sure you like and subscribe to everything. All the interactions that we can get on social media is the best. That's exactly what we need. Ta-da! Because I want Facebook to give us more money. Zuckerberg doesn't need it. I need it. What are you talking about? It's fine. You guys interact. He gives me money. Let's do it. Come on. It's simple. Anyway, everyone have a safe week of training. Really safe. Careful of this heat. Use your common sense. We will see you next week.